In the year 2563, 3 centuries after a devastating conflict referred to as the Fall, a doctor by the name of Ito visits a scrapyard to scavenge for any valuable pieces he can use in his repairs. There, he discovers a severely damaged cyborg girl. Ito confirms that her brain is still functioning and takes her home to rebuild her body with the assistance of his nurse. The following morning, the cyborg wakes up in a girl's room and is fascinated by her new body. After admiring herself in the mirror, she puts on clothing and heads downstairs, where Ito is caring for other cyborg patients. Ito is pleased to see her awake and offers her breakfast, during which the girl reveals that she can't recall how to eat a simple fruit. It is discovered that she has no recollection of her past, and Ito has been unable to locate any records pertaining to her identity. Later on, the girl ventures outside to explore Iron City for the first time. Iron City is a lower-class area, and above them is Zalem, the last remaining sky city where the elite reside. Following the war, survivors relocated to Earth, and all work done here is for Zalem, but no one is permitted to go up there. Ito gives the girl the name Alita and invites her to stay with him. Ito takes Alita with him while he completes some errands, allowing her to witness a motorball game on a big screen and befriend a street dog. While examining a wanted poster for a criminal who murdered 6 women, a massive robot appears in the middle of the street, and Alita instinctively assumes a defensive position. A young man named Hugo immediately pushes her out of the way, but Alita goes back to rescue the dog. Hugo is impressed, but warns her not to mess with the centurions who guard the city. The two young people hit it off, but Ito interrupts and brings Alita home. Late at night, a woman attempts to return to her apartment, only to be attacked by the wanted killer. Meanwhile, Alita wakes up upon hearing a noise and discovers that Ito has arrived home late, carrying a large suitcase and a bloodstain on his hand. The following day, Alita begins assisting Ito with his patients and learns that a man had his cyborg limbs stolen by jackers who sell them on the black market that supports motorball games. She also hears about another woman who was killed the previous night and becomes suspicious of Ito and his wrist wound. After work, Alita heads out and runs into Chiron, a mysterious woman with a mark on her forehead. Chiron grasps Alita's hand, causing her to panic and flee. Chiron reveals to Ito that they were previously married and that the cyborg body they had created for their deceased daughter was used to repair Alita. Chiron proposes that they collaborate again to create a motorball champion who could help her gain access to Zalem, but Ito declines as he refuses to build deadly machines. Chiron departs and Ito notices her leaving with Vector, the owner of the factory. Meanwhile, Alita meets with Hugo and his friends to play motorball. After the match, Hugo introduces Alita to Chocolate, and they see Zapan, a hunter-warrior carrying a sword since firearms are prohibited in their area. Alita continues to work with Ito in the mornings and hang out with Hugo in the afternoons. One day, Hugo takes Alita to a high building to get a better view of Zalem and confesses his dream of going there. He also tells her that the scrapyard is filled with trash discarded by Zalem, suggesting that Alita might have come from there originally. One night, Alita follows Ito as he stalks a woman named Nisiana into an alley and takes out a scythe-shaped weapon from his suitcase. Believing that Ito intends to kill Nisiana, Alita tries to stop him, but it turns out that Ito is a hunter-warrior who goes after criminals for their bounties. Nisiana and Romo are cyborgs working for Gruishka, who has set a trap for Ito. Ito fights Romo and loses his arm, but Alita joins the fight and easily defeats both Nisiana and Romo. Gruishka then engages Alita, and as she attacks with a special kick, a flashback of herself wearing armor on the moon comes to her mind. In the present, she uses the kick to sever Gruishka's arm and attempts to attack him with Ito's scythe, causing Gruishka to flee through a hole in the ground. In the aftermath, Ito visits the Hunter Warriors headquarters to turn in Nisiana and claim the reward, which would enable him to continue operating the clinic and assist people. Alita presses Ito for more information about her past and memories, prompting him to take her home and reveal that he had constructed the body for his daughter, who was wheelchair-bound. Unfortunately, Alita's namesake died after being attacked by an addicted patient who sought medicine as a stimulant before a motorball match. Chiron, unable to cope with her daughter's death, left Ito to his own devices. Seeking revenge, Ito hunted down and killed the assailant, ultimately realizing his talent and subsequently joining the Hunter Warriors. Alita's current body was built by Ito, with her brain and core remaining intact. The latter is powered by an antimatter micro-reactor, making her capable of powering the entire city alone. Gruishka returns to Chiron to tell her about Alita's abilities. She agrees to rebuild him, and Vector interrogates him. However, Gruishka suddenly transforms his personality, revealing that Zalem's overlord Nova can hack into any cyborg he wishes to communicate with Earth. Nova explains that Alita has knowledge of the fighting-style Panzerkunst and instructs Chiron to rebuild Gruishka and send him to assassinate her. Later, Ado discovers that Gruishka is not on the bounty list, indicating that someone is protecting him. Alita desires to become a hunter-warrior, but Ado forbids her from doing so. Angry, Alita leaves and meets Hugo, who takes her to witness a motorball match. After watching the players fight fiercely, Hugo shows Alita behind the scenes and informs her that the winner gets to go to Zalem. Alita notices that Chiron and Vector are present, building cyborgs explicitly for motorball. The current leader is not one of theirs, prompting Chiron to request Vector to obtain his parts. Shortly after, the winner is ambushed by a group of jackers, who capture him in a ring of fire and steal his arms. Hugo and his friends, who engage in such activities for money, are revealed to be the jackers. Vector instructs the group to transport the weapons while he deals with the remnants of the battle. The following day, Hugo and his companions take Alita to a picturesque location outside the city, where they discover a sunken ship that was primarily untouched due to being enemy technology from the United Republics of Mars. In a bid to regain her memories, Alita dives into the lake and enters the ship, where she stumbles upon an advanced armored body that she believes she has a unique connection with. However, Ido, her caretaker, denies her request to have the body, revealing it to be a weaponized cyborg known as a berserker. Ignoring Ido's concerns, Alita decides to register as a hunter-warrior and heads to a bar where she meets Zupan and other warriors. Zupan taunts Alita for her small stature, but she remains undeterred and proposes an alliance to take down Gruishka, which everyone finds comical. Alita proves her strength by easily defeating Zupan and offering the other warriors a deal. If she can beat them in battle, they must agree to help her. A bar brawl breaks out, and Alita effortlessly takes on everyone, aided by Hugo. Just as Ito arrives to break out the fight, Gruishka enters the scene and kills Alita's canine companion. Alita, infuriated, smears the dog's blood on her face and engages in a fierce fight with Gruishka. Ito offers to help Alita during her battle against Gruishka, but Hugo refuses and pushes him away. Gruishka creates a hole in the ground to fight Alita in the ruins of the old world. Despite Alita's spectacular fighting, Gruishka's upgrades allow him to wound her leg. He reveals that she was made by Nova, just like him, which puts Alita in a bad emotional state. During the next attack, Alita fails to dodge and loses most of her body, triggering a memory of Gelda teaching her how to fight. Encouraged by Gelda's words, Alita uses her remaining arm to punch Gruishka through his eye socket. Ido and Hugo arrive just in time to attack Gruishka, and Mikti sends his cyborg hounds to chase him away. Ito takes Alita home and repairs her using the berserker body, which immediately adjusts to its new host. The next morning, Alita feels stronger than ever. She meets with Hugo and tells him about the nanotech, which makes her texture sensors more touch-sensitive. They kiss, and Gruishka throws a tantrum over his loss. Nova takes over Vector's body to scold Gruishka and remind him of his mission. Vector decides to meet with Hugo to get information about Alita by getting him drunk. Alita offers to give Hugo the money she earns from bounties to buy a ticket to Zalem, but he refuses to put her in danger again. Alita removes her heart from her chest to prove her love, but Hugo turns her down and informs her that Vector wants to see her play motorball. Alita accepts if Hugo becomes her coach, and they could go to Zalem together if she wins. Zupan witnesses their conversation from afar. On the night of Alita's first big game, Ito gives her extra protection and custom-made skate feet. She chooses the number 99 in honor of her memories, while Vector contacts the other players and offers a huge reward to whoever kills Alita during the match. Hugo decides to quit his job as a jacker, which causes a fight between him and his friend Tanji. During the altercation, Zupan arrives and kills the cyborg they were working with to frame the jackers for the murder. Zupan then attacks Hugo, injuring his shoulder, and kills Tanji. Hugo manages to distract Zupan and escape with a Molotov bomb. Meanwhile, Alita is participating in a deadly sport in a stadium, not realizing that all of her opponents are actually bounty markers or hunter warriors, and that it is a trap set up by Vector. Ino realizes this and warns Alita, but she chooses to stay and fight. She easily defeats her opponents but gets a call from Hugo, who needs her help to defeat Zupan. Alita rushes to Hugo's aid and fights off Zupan and the other bounty markers who are chasing him. When they catch up, Alita tries to protect Hugo, but Zepin stabs him, revealing that Hugo was wanted for murder. Hugo admits to being a jacker, but insists he never killed anyone. Alita is unable to bring herself to kill Zepin, so he stabs Hugo before a Centurion arrives and asks for Hugo's body. Alita runs away with Hugo's head to a secret spot, where Hugo tells her he loves her and didn't kill anyone. Chiron watches from afar and is touched by their relationship, offering to help them. Alita emerges from the spot with Hugo's head, and the Centurion accepts this as Alita having finished the bounty. However, Zepin discovers that Chiron has connected Hugo's brain to Alita's core and tries to attack her, violating the Hunter's Code and becoming a criminal. Alita was able to defeat Zepin and acquire his sword. Later on, Eido provides Hugo with a new body, which is not very advanced. Eido explains to Alita that Vector's promises are false, and the only way to reach Zalem is by becoming the champion. Eido and Chiron, who are from Zalem, were forced to come to the current place by Nova when they discovered their daughter was flawed. Eido had removed the mark from his forehead to leave his previous light behind. Vector confronts Chiron for releasing Alita, but Chiron explains that Alita reminded her of her duties as a doctor and a mother, causing her to want to quit. Vector is left with no choice but to send a guard after her. Determined to avenge Hugo, Alita heads to the Hunter Warriors' headquarters, located in the Cyborg factory building. Using Zepin's sword, she destroys all the Centurions and the bounty system before bursting into Vector's office. There, she discovers that Vector has taken Chiron's body parts to sell later. Gruishka arrives and injures Alita, triggering another flashback. During the war, Alita, Gelda, and their team attempted to climb the cargo tubes to reach Zalem. The serrated defense ring on the tube appeared and killed the army, leaving only Alita and Gelda behind. The ring broke the tube into two, and Alita barely managed to hang on the edge. Gelda helped her back up, reminding her of their mission to destroy Zalem. Alita reminds herself that she can heal and kills Gruishka in just a few moves. Alita demands to speak with Nova, and the Overlord takes over Vector's body to respond. He reminds her that he can see everything and threatens to kill Eido and Hugo. In response, a furious Alita kills Vector. Eido calls Alita to inform her that Centurions are pursuing Hugo, and Alita searches for him. Hugo is climbing the tube to pursue his dream, despite Alita's warnings that Nova is using him to get to her. Nova drops a serrated ring on them, and although Alita dodges it, Hugo is hit and loses most of his body. Alita grabs his hand to stop him from falling, but his arm slowly breaks apart. The couple confesses their love before Hugo falls to his death. Months later, Alita becomes a motorball superstar and raises her sword to Zalem as a promise to become the champion and seek revenge against Nova.